The first lesson was employee freedom breeds innovation. And the second lesson was process kills organizational flexibility. So his goal was to develop an organization with Netflix that gave unprecedented levels of freedom to his workforce. But he also had some concerns. He worried that as the company grew, if he didn't put in place these kind of control mechanisms, that the company was likely to descend into mayhem. So not operate on the edge of chaos, but really descend into chaos. So he thought about how to deal with this, and he came up with what we will call the Netflix experiment. And that experiment basically had three parts. Okay, so the first part was, in most organizations, most of the control mechanisms we put in place are there to deal with the, let's say, average employees, or maybe the poor employees. But our top employees, like our really best people, they don't generally need to be controlled so much. So what if, Reed thought, I were able to create an organization that was made up as much as possible with only really good employees? Well, then I could give them a lot more freedom and get this innovation going. But Reed had another concern, which is that Netflix at that time was a small company. They didn't have a lot of money. How was he possibly going to afford these great people? But Reed is a software engineer, and he was familiar with a bunch of research that is sometimes called the 10X principle. And that 10X principle basically shows that if you are working with creative people or in any job where people are using their brains, that if you take 10 people with the same training and the same expertise, that the best one, the top of the 10, will deliver 10 to 25 times the value of the average one. So in these kinds of jobs, not operational jobs, but in these kinds of jobs where people are using their brains to be creative or think of ways to get things done, you have two choices. Either you can hire 10 people and you can pay them an average amount, or you could hire just one wonderful employee and pay them up to 10 times the amount that you would pay an average employee if necessary. So he decided in his organization he was going to hire a lot less people and then pay them, if necessary, a lot more in order to get them on board. And in doing so, he would increase what they call at Netflix talent density. Okay, so we have a lot less employees and a lot more talent. Okay, so that would be the first thing he would do. The second thing that he would do, well, he also worried that even if he increased that talent density, that he may still have employees who try to take advantage of the freedom that's allotted to them. So in these circumstances, he would also try to create an organizational culture where employees were giving a lot of really open, transparent feedback to one another. So then when Jim tries to fly first class, someone else would say, hey, Jim, I don't think that's a good use of company money. And that workforce would really then, keep one another accountable. So if he were to do that, if he were able to increase talent density and increase candor, then perhaps he could also reduce the number of controls in the organization and give all this freedom.